the positive that came out of the struggle. It wasn't about hatred. It was about, hey, let's reach for the stars. We can do this. We can do this. We had what we called revolutionary principles. There were some things we simply would not do. They say that history repeats itself. History does not repeat itself. People repeat history. I think that what I have seen more often than not is that people like myself are viewed as a threat, even by people that you would think would be open.
For our work examining the saga of George Floyd Square in Minneapolis, I sat down with a member of the original Black Panthers, Larry Pinkney. Larry offered his thoughts about this topic, as well as discussing his history, experience, and how these reflect on his views today. Here is our full interview. So I guess my first questions would be about just your general reaction to, first, the death of George Floyd, the way it happened, and then the reaction to it, and then where we should go from here.
My reaction to it was same old, same old. Okay, the only difference I saw was that it was on video. Had it not been on video, bro, you wouldn't have been hearing that much about it. It was on video, it was on tape. So Chauvin, Officer Chauvin, was sitting there. Everybody saw it, okay? But what about people like Bobby Hutton? Look him up. What about people like William Armstead? Look him up. What about people like Oscar Grant? Just Google these people's names, okay? And these were people who actually were active in the community and who served the people, as we used to say in the party, body and soul. So now, this is not to denigrate from Floyd. Anyone in their right mind, any sane person, would say that would have to say that what happened to George Floyd was absolutely wrong. There's no question about that. However, I say, so what's new? And the only thing new about it was that it was on video, okay? I'm not going to get caught up in between. I definitely do not canonize Floyd. All right, George Floyd was not Dr. Martin Luther King. He was not Medgar Evers. He was not Malcolm X. He was not Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, Huey P. Newton, blah, blah, blah. Nevertheless, what happened to him was a disgrace. There's no doubt about that. But let's keep our perspective. Let's be level-headed about this. Let's not... See, what bothers me, brother, is that I see what I consider to be really political parasites, and I think I may have said that to you before, political parasites pimping the pain of the people, which is an expression that I used many times when I was an editorial board member and columnist for the National Black Commentator, blackcommentator.com. And it disgusts me to see people, instead of responding, they react. And there's a big difference between the two. One can respond, and then one can react. And what I'm seeing is overwhelmingly a bunch of reactions, or as we used to say back in the day, reactionaries. Getting back to George Floyd, no, I do not agree with, and I'm not saying you are suggesting this or proposing this, but I do not agree with canonizing him. I have been around for too many years and have seen the sacrifice, including my own, of so many brothers and sisters of all colors, black, white, brown, red, yellow. And I don't like what I see in terms of today in 2021. I don't like it at all. I think it's crap. I think that if we're going to, first of all, I don't think we should canonize anybody. I love and respect Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Huey P. Newton, but I would never canonize them. Never. Okay? And my respect is based upon what they did for the community, what they did. And I don't believe in this division. What I see is that this is being used as a way not to unite people, but to divide people. I don't like the guilt tripping I see being put on white folks. I don't like it. Because as Dr. King said, it's about the content of our character and not the color of our skin. And I agree with that. So I feel very passionate and strong about this. There have been a number of people in Minneapolis, no less, and in states and cities throughout the United States that have done so much for their communities, but are essentially ignored because the media can't make hay of that. Oh, that's not. Oh, but this, because this police officer sat on this guy and had a blank stare, and that they could make hay of. But what about the reality of the everyday reality about the struggle of all people, meaning especially economically poor people? I don't like the expression just poor, but economically poor people, because economically poor people, many of them can be very rich in another way. What about the struggle? What about the killings just in the past few weeks of young blacks in North America? Just kids, 9, 10, 11 years old, the murders of them. Or does it only matter? I mean, these were kids that were shot in the head, specifically in North Minneapolis. So I think we need to be honest with ourselves. And I think we're being very not all of us, but I'm saying collectively, I think we're being extremely dishonest with ourselves because we want to feel good. We want to virtue signal, oh, Black Lives Matter. Well, you know what? When we as Black people collectively insist that our lives matter, then truly we're Black lives and all lives matter. So I believe that.
Did you see corporate and political hangers-on with the civil rights movement? Meaning you would see people just sort of latch on for political points, parasites, as you said, a company, a college, a church, and you could tell they weren't really interested in the cause so much as they were interested in their own virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling and building up their resume.
Yeah.
Okay?
So you saw it then too.
I saw it then too, only not to the extent that I see it today, because the quote unquote media can reach you so much quicker. The impact is so much quicker, and in many respects so much stronger. So of course I saw that in the 60s and 70s.
So really, this is a public thing. I mean, the media only offers what they know is going to get attention. So really, it's about the public. What the public chooses to watch, to read, to click on nowadays.
To get excited about.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of. So did you see things back then that people got excited about that you thought, well, don't pay attention to that so much. That one, like the real battle's right here.
Exactly.
Did you see that happening?
I saw it many times, and you know. The fact of the matter is this is what I find amazing, stunning, is that the media really has not changed that much. It really hasn't. They use the same tactics. It's the same dance, different tune, and it's really sad because we as Americans in particular. And I love this country, don't get me wrong. I love this country. I've lived in Africa, Europe, and Asia. I love the United States with all of its faults, frailties, etc., infallibility. Okay? But we as Americans tend to be ahistorical. We look at what exists for the moment. We remember, our memory span is like that, collectively speaking, is that of an amoeba. Okay? I saw many examples in the 60s and the 70s of where the media would hone. For example, let me give some examples. Dr. Martin Luther King was not, I repeat, was not loved by the media. He was in fact hated by the media. Hated by the media. But if you look at it today, you think, oh, wow, he was adored. No, he was despised. Lyndon Baines Johnson despised Dr. King. Okay? And let me be specific, the FBI, and the NSA, National Security Agency, the CIA, which wasn't even supposed to be involved nationally, okay? All of these agencies were all about neutralizing and destroying Dr. King, okay?
And you guys?
And, well, the Black Panther Party, it's very well documented that the counterintelligence program known as COINTELPRO, I was a target, but there were thousands of targets of COINTELPRO. They would set us up, sex, drugs, guns, violence, whatever they thought would stereotypically work. And unfortunately, it did work. It did work. We still have veterans of the Black Panther Party in prison today. One such example is Mumia Abu-Jamal, okay? In Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, okay? We have numerous political prisoners who are languishing in prisons today. Where's the attention for them? Why don't people give a damn? Okay, that's not sexy. It's not, it doesn't appeal to, what people want to hear. It's like, no. This is hypocritical. This is not acceptable. Okay?
Your gripe is with human nature.
Perhaps. Maybe we need to grow up. Maybe we need to evolve. I saw Brother Malcolm evolve. Brother Malcolm started off in, I think, a very bad place. But as he grew and he evolved, he opened his arms, his mind, and his heart. And that's when they had to kill him. He had to be eliminated. After all, he was fine as long as he was calling white people white devils. Oh, yeah, they liked that. But when he began to evolve and said, wait a minute, let's take a breath, back step here, let's look at this. We're all brothers and sisters, like it or not. He had to die. And he had to be killed. He had to be assassinated. Dr. King, of course, we know who was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, was already at that level. What people do not understand today in 2021, the 21st century, is just how close Dr. King and Malcolm actually were. They were growing closer, and that scared the daylights out of the media. Same media that exists today. And now they pretend, oh yes, we loved Dr. King, and we respected Malcolm, and the Panther Party. Enough already. Mm-hmm. Enough. So Malcolm warned us, Al-Hajj al-Shabat Malik, Brother Malcolm warned us. He said, if you're not careful, the media, and in that case, I believe he used the word newspapers, but it was the media in general, will have you, and I'm paraphrasing, will have you loving your enemies and hating your friends. And that is precisely where we are today. Precisely where we are today. And this is what I find incredibly dangerous, whether we're talking about George Floyd, whether we're talking about this guy named Bird, I'm trying to remember Bird's first name, in Texas some years ago, who was killed horribly. It doesn't matter who we're talking about. We have to understand how manipulative, the media is. And it really hasn't changed. In fact, if anything, it's gotten worse. And anyway, I don't want to go on and on, but if I'm making any sense.
Mm-hmm. But even though you can recall times back during the civil rights era where people might get caught up in some of the sideshows where you thought they were losing their, keep your eye on the ball. That's not the important thing. This is the important thing.
Mm.
Do you at least think that even though people's eyes weren't always on the right target, the general movement was in fact good, and there was good that came out of it?
Absolutely, of
And
course.
do you see the same thing now with Floyd?
I don't know about that. I can't go there with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't.
So first talk about the good that came from
the good that came from
your era.
First of all, people like artists like Nina Simone, who wrote "To Be Young, Gifted, and Black." The positive, the positive that came out of the struggle, that came out of the movement. Aretha Franklin also sang the song "To Be Young, Gifted, and Black." It wasn't about hatred. It was about, hey, let's reach for the stars. We can do this. We can do this. Not, oh, Whitey, you're bad. You know what? Go ahead.
But Malcolm X said white devils.
Before he had evolved. He absolutely did. Uh-huh. And that's why he became so dangerous and had to be eliminated, because he passed that stage, especially after he left this country and came back from his pilgrimage to Mecca. And he said there were people there who he would have called blue-eyed devils, who he now considered to be his brothers and sisters. The system knew they had to kill him. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no. You go ahead. You were saying the Aretha Franklin and that writer.
The good that came out of, okay? So much good came out of it. You had brothers and sisters in my generation who you could go up to a brother and a sister. Bro, come on, man, you shouldn't be doing blah, blah, blah. Brother would hang his head. You don't want to embarrass him, but brother would hang his head. So, man, all right. And he'd stop, maybe just for a moment, but he would stop. Try doing that today. You'll get your brains blown out, okay? There were so many very positive things that came out of the struggle. And the reason I refer to Nina Simone, I admit she is, to me, one of the greatest women artists of all time. But she came out of that era, the late, great Nina Simone. Aretha, too, Aretha Franklin. I remember in the Black Panther Party, we would, at offices, one of the ways we attracted the young brothers and sisters, we played Aretha or Nina and had it blasting, okay, on the sidewalk. Come on, Black Panther Party wants you. Come on now. And then we had people like Curtis Mayfield singing, "We're a winner. We're a winner. Don't let anybody tell you you can't make it." Yeah, okay? So a lot of very positive things came.
It sounded empowering.
Yes, in the real sense of the word.
How about now, though, where maybe now policing will reform and there will be fewer George Floyds in the future? Mm-hmm. Maybe now people will be more conscious of their, as they say, implicit bias or unconscious bias. Do you think that even though choosing George Floyd as the symbol was, whatever, random or even, in your opinion, misplaced, do you think that the general movement of racial unity or progress, interracial progress, can happen from this movement?
That's a very difficult question to answer.
Why?
Because when I see the elements involved in pushing the George Floyd thing, and I see the hatred, these people, too many of these people have hatred.
Okay. Who are these people?
When I say good question. By these people, and I'm talking about whites and blacks, are saying that's just the way white folks are. And I'm saying, wait a damn minute. Have you ever heard of John Brown and his 3 sons in Harper's Ferry? Have you ever heard of the struggle? I mean, I'm saddened and I'm deeply concerned So to be honest, well, I am honest, but to be brutally blunt, I don't know where uh, this is going as far as the George Floyd thing. I think that we have heroes and sheroes that we could and should be building upon, of all colors, black, white, brown, red, yellow, citizens of this country who have struggled so hard. All one has to do, for example, is read Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. We have so many heroes and sheroes. And I see the George Floyd thing being essentially media driven. Media driven. I don't trust anything that's media driven.
How did you respond when seeing the reaction to Floyd's death, the uproar that occurred? So there were the riots, there was the taking of the third precinct, there were the looting of Target, the total destruction of these places. Of course, the small businesses.
And the burning down of a senior citizen, brand new senior citizens building, burned to the ground.
How did you respond both to that and about just what happened at the square and taking over the space, creating a memorial? You know, a lot different kind of energy there. Arguably, it did turn combative and stuff too, and they took it over literally.
My response to the reaction, frankly, I strongly suspect that there were provocateurs involved. Okay, I strongly suspect that provocateurs from the so-called left, provocateurs perhaps from the government, but provocateurs. Okay, we have to grow up in this country and become sophisticated, understand that this is real, and that people push their agendas for different motivations, and they'll use anything they can. I think there were a number of people who could care less about George Floyd. They didn't care about no George Floyd. Okay, I do think that there were, however, deeply sincere people who were hurt by what they saw. Maybe they should have seen that. Maybe it's about time. But let's not allow the horror of that to overshadow what I would hope would be our response, which is, you know, there was a song that came out back in the day called "Reach Out and Touch." Who sang that? Dinah Ross. Somebody's hand make this world a better place if you can. Now, I'm not Pollyanna. I don't believe that, oh yeah, love. But I think that there's a necessity for us as human beings, as hard as it is, and it is. I have gotten very angry at white folks. I have gotten very angry at black folks, and I have gotten very angry at humanity in general. But the bottom line is, I'm human. And I have to accept responsibility. There's enough blame to go around to everybody. And if we can get, I hope, to that point, then perhaps something positive can come out of this after all. In 1968, April 4th, 1968, when Dr. King was assassinated, we in the Black Panther Party called on all people to remain calm. Do not go out and destroy any community. Remain calm. You're setting yourself up. Okay? Look in terms of what we can do, not what has been done. If we don't grow and learn from the horrors, you know, they have an expression that if things are sour, lemons, turn lemons, take them and turn them into lemonade. I know that sounds quaint. And as I said, I'm not Pollyanna by any means. But if we do not learn in this country, and in other parts of the world for that matter, but in this country to do that, we need to get over our own egos. See, there are too many people involved in this so-called movement They're ego-driven. It saddens me that people tend to look at Minnesota this way. I'm not from Minnesota. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and then went to California where I joined the Black Panther Party, finished high school, and went to college. But I have to say that there is a certain goodness about the people of Minnesota. There is. And when I came to Minnesota, I went to a small town, Marshall. And I found those people to be amazing. They were mostly farmers and their families. And when I think of Minnesota, that's the Minnesota I think of. Okay? I don't think of people trying to be PC, politically correct. No, I think of the people who are just honest, hardworking, and give a damn about humanity. And I don't care what their color is. So, I don't know. I guess I'm digressing. But anyway.
Well, the popular narrative is that you keep people down for decades or more even. And this is what happens. When they have a spark, it explodes. And so, in other words, it's really the system's fault because they kept people down so long that when they had a chance to break out and explode, they did. Mm-hmm. Do you buy that?
Only to a degree. Okay? Only to a degree. Because back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, we had what we called revolutionary principles. There were some things we simply would not do. Okay? You didn't attack disabled people. You didn't burn down senior citizens. You just didn't. No matter what you thought, you didn't.
So what happened to standards? To honor?
You know what? That's my question. That's my question. What happened? Where are our principles? We had principles. Somebody said, well, the left. I said, that's not the left. As my Chicano friend in California constantly says to me, Eddie Perez, he constantly says, Larry, that left. And he's correct. That left. We have got to regain our principles. We have got to regain I keep saying principles because, despite the good, the bad, the ugly, which happens to be one of my favorite movies, but anyway, despite that, if we lose our principles, we lose everything. Everything. And I think we're better than that. I know we're better than that as a people. And so I want to regain those. The struggle continues, as we see in Swahili, la sima tushende mbele shaka, the struggle continues without a doubt. But we must have principles.
So, and then looking at what happened at George Floyd Square, the memorial was put up. The centerpiece in that intersection would be built soon after, and then they blocked it off. They occupied it. Right? Mm-hmm. They kept all traffic out, and they kept police out. They called it a autonomous zone. Mm-hmm. Even still, it says you're welcome. You're entering the free state of George Floyd or something like that. How did you respond seeing that all occur, and then just the activity inside that whole occupied area?
Well, occupied in quotation marks. These folks, I've been in Africa. I've seen occupied states. I've been in Asia. I've seen real occupied states. They're fantasizing. It's what we call the infantile left, all right? Or the infantile, they're not even the left, really. And they use these words, but they have no clue as to what those words really mean. Now, I understand, to some extent at least, their desire to make a statement. But by now, one would hope that, I go back to my original point, they're ahistorical. It's like, oh, we're occupied. Look, has anybody ever heard of Alcatraz? Has anybody remembered what happened there? Does anybody know? I'm talking about the occupation of Alcatraz. I mean, damn, we're talking almost 50 years ago. Haven't we learned anything from that? You know, um, but we keep, they say that history repeats itself. History does not repeat itself. People repeat history. Ahistorical people repeat history. So a part of me certainly obviously understood the sadness, the rage, but I'm saying, come on, we got to do better than that. We it's not like we don't have literature out there. I keep referring, for example, to Howard Zinn of People's History of the United States. But let me go a little deeper than that. Let me talk about Frantz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth. I mean, read, crack a book, study. I mean, then maybe we will, and communicate with each other. All this nonsense about white people getting down on their knees. Oh, oh, give me a break. I've been to Africa. I've seen what Africans have done to each other. I've seen what Europeans have done to each other. Just get off that crap, because it's crap. You know, um, I want us to grow up, and we better do it damn quickly.
Were you at least pleased to see the people coming together to honor George Floyd, to create a space where they can recognize his death and what his death represented to the injustices?
It's what his death represented.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I can relate to. Okay, that's why I keep mentioning people like William Armstead or Bobby Hutton or Oscar Grant. Okay, and so many others, women and men. But we need to. Yes, of course that pleased me.
Did you see this as a part when it first happened? And I know you wouldn't be down for any of the craziness, the rioting, and all that, any of that. But what about just the rise of this civil rights movement? Did you see, hey, you know what, maybe I can help out with this. I'm an original Black Panther. Maybe I can get on board with this. Maybe I can lend my voice. Maybe I can lend some wisdom. Was there ever any interest in your involvement in any of this contemporary rise?
Unfortunately, and I have to be very brutally honest, I think that what I have seen more often than not is that people like myself are viewed as a threat, even by people that you would think would be open. Okay, I'm not only an original Black Panther member of the party. Okay, I'm also the only U.S. citizen and Black Panther Party veteran in history who has successfully self-authored a case to the United Nations. I didn't, my point being, and I say self-authored, means I didn't do it through a lawyer. I did it myself from prison. Okay? But what I have seen, and this is where egos come in, people's egos, young people, old people, middle-aged people, whatever, that gets in the way. It's sort of like that song, Both Sides Now, but clouds got in the way. And that's, so I'm trying to really directly answer your question, Brandon. I have to, at this point, I'm an observer.
Were you always an observer after it happened last year when George Floyd died?
Well, I wrote a few things that were published, calling on people to be honest with each other and with themselves. Okay? But now, basically, my voice, as I see it, is more as for lack of another term, as an elder statesman.
Okay? Do people seek out your voice very often?
Some do, but generally speaking, for example, I had a brother contact me from Texas, and he said, it's a group of black men who know they were youngsters. By youngsters, I mean anywhere from 17 to maybe 22. And they want to form a Huey P. Newton gun club. This is what the brother said to me. He said, so Larry, what do you think about that? And my response was, why don't they form a Huey P. Newton book club? Why not get a historical analysis of where we are with a view towards where we could be going and should be going? That's pretty much where I'm at right now. I don't have any illusions about so-called revolution. And first of all, people use the word revolution too loosely. They don't know. I've seen revolutions in Africa, and they're bloody affairs. Bloody affairs. I've even seen semi-revolutions in certain parts of Europe, like in Portugal, when the Gaetano government was overthrown, and they were not pretty. But at least, especially in those places, at least there was some political consciousness and awareness. Mm-hmm. But over here, I'm not so sure. I think it's the zenith of insanity to say that we don't need some kind of cops or law enforcement. I think that's absurd. That's insane. I mean, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? I mean, get real. In any country, whether it's the United States. And I'm sick and tired of seeing the United States constantly being put down. We have done some horrible things, but we have also done some great things. And so, to answer your question, or to answer it again, of course I empathize. But I want to see people, especially, well, I was going to say especially young people, but all people, grow the freak up and stop expecting things to just happen by osmosis. Things do not happen by osmosis. It takes time, it takes study, it's like I keep saying to folks, crack a book, for crying out loud. Read, study, analyze, and then you realize this is not new. So where do we go from here, which was one of the books that Dr. Martin Luther King wrote? Where do we go from here? And maybe we need to go back and to look at that, because I view history as a signpost not only of the past, but also of the present and the future. So I just, yes, they have my empathy, but don't be insane.
How would you like to see things proceed? And what do you think would be, what would you be pleased to read in the newspapers tomorrow if you said, oh wow, that's really good progress?
I would love to see, whether I read them in the newspapers or not, because I don't trust them. Anyway, I would love to see organizations or organizing spring up where there is little or no recriminations. All this mutual recrimination going on is terrible. Not only is it terrible, but it's self-defeating. It's just self-defeating. I would love to see people say, you know what? We all messed up. It is time for us to admit that. It is time for us to deal with each other, and first of all, ourselves and each other honestly. And put aside the egotistical folks out there who just want to lead this or lead that. No. This is about a collective leadership of all the people. And I would love to see a safe area for the people, black, white, brown, red, yellow, a safe area for us all. I would love to see that. My goodness, it would, wow.
Would you like to see it there at 38th in Chicago?
I'd like to see it wherever it could happen, bro. Really. Because it's beyond Floyd. It's beyond George Floyd. That's why I keep naming other names. This would make my day. It would make my life. It would tell me that, it would remind me that the struggle that I and thousands of others went through actually has progressed to another level. That's what I want to see. We got to stop reinventing the wheel. And anyway, I get very passionate about that.
Well, you've devoted your life to it.
I have. I have.
Now 50 years
Well,
or so of it?
I'm in my 70s. I joined the party in 1967. It's 2021 now.
So, last words about George Floyd Square. Like, do you have any thoughts on what you would like to see happen there? Keep it a memorial, keep that centerpiece in the intersection. Do you have specifics about how you would maybe envision it if you were in control? If you could maybe shape it a little bit. If they called you and said, what should we do with this place? Should we honor George? Should we, open it up? Should we, what do you think?
I'd like to see us honor each other. Like Dr. King said, even Malcolm said, Malcolm X said later, and we in the party certainly said that, this is about the people, all of us. And yeah, I'd like to see it opened up to everyone. And I want to see an end to recriminations. Just stop it. It's not helpful.
So like those 24 demands that they have listed?
I would like to see, instead of demanding things right now, I'd like to see us coming together in the sense, we can demand until we turn blue in the face. Okay? But as we said in the party, action is supreme. And by action, we didn't mean shooting. We meant, what can we do collectively with each other? Okay? That's what I would like to see. For God's sake, can't we I know we can do this, or at least I believe it. Maybe I'm stupid or a fool. But I believe that we humans have the capacity to a very large extent, overcome our weaknesses. And, there's a certain spiritual part of me, not to be confused with religious. There's a certain spiritual part of me that I guess actually tells me, Larry, this can be done. It is possible, and I know, frankly, for me, that's how, when I was imprisoned for all those years, and when I took my case to the United Nations, people laughed. The UN's not going to pay any attention to you. Who do you think you are? Well, I know. But the bottom line was, I got to do what I got to do. And as it turned out, the UN did pay attention. And I'm not saying, the UN is great by any means, but I'm simply saying we humans have the ability to. I don't think we humans give ourselves enough credit, frankly, as human beings. We're weak, we're fallible, but we also have incredible resilience. That's what I want to see happen. I want to see that resilience. I want to see our humanity rise up again. Rise up. And yeah, we're gonna face a lot of challenges. Well, why shouldn't we? Of course we're gonna face a lot of challenges with ourselves and with each other.